Hello, investors. This is Connor Bates, Associate Portfolio Manager with Revere Asset Management. Today is Wednesday, March 11th, 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Coming to you with tonight's Revere Roundup Daily Market Insight video. Market state, we are still in a mild correction. And if we look trend gauge here, market leaders with the red arrow with the green sub arrow, though, definitely some pockets of strength. And we've seen some nice action in leaders in the past 2 days. So we'll be on watch if that can continue. Short term, we still have the declining 21 EMA along with the 50 simple moving average that for now are acting as resistance. And then long term above the 200-day moving average. And basically, what happened today, we got CPI this morning in line with expectations and just choppy action across the board. Oil continues to stay elevated, putting a damper on the market, and just kind of continue to be in this range. Although some leaders did show some relative strength, and I'll cover them in the video. Final numbers 21 over 21 list up 0.75%, 14 green, 7 red, turbo 12 up 3.77%, 11 green, 1 red. And I will preface the turbo, it's called the turbo 12 for a reason. It's more so, it's still liquid names, but it's less liquid names than the 21 over 21 list, names that we can trade in the TurboTection portfolio. And many of them have very high ATRs, that's average true range. And so this number inherently is going to be higher all the time to the upside and the downside. So this is pretty normal. We take the composite of the daily returns of the 12 stocks and get the number. And, when you have a lot of names that average 8 to 10% a day, this can be high. Mag 7 was up 0.36%, RG8 down 0.19, S&P flat on the day, RSP down 0.33%, Q's roughly flat as well, Equate down 0.28%, Dow Jones Industrial Average down 0.6, Midcaps down 0.3, Russ 2000 down 0.2, 60/40 stock and bond down 0.23, GROTECTION flat down 0.02%, TurboTection up 0.13% on the day. Into the inter-asset correlation, S&P 500, and let's take a look in the hourly chart, and you can see it's just a really big range. Continues to make lower highs and gets rejected, as you can see. That's 5 lower highs on each rally attempt, and really, the market's looking for a catalyst, whether that be de-escalation in the war, whether that be oil coming down, something to give the market a reason and still kind of looking for that. But for now, we're just still in this range. Every pop gets sold. Every time it looks like the market's going to really break down, it holds. And right now, we remain above the 200-day moving average. And that's really the major line in the sand. If you take a look at the daily chart, you can see we're getting a pretty tight here. So maybe gearing up for a move. Maybe we're just going to stay in this choppy range. But if we do break this black line, which is the 200-day moving average, that would be total risk off, holding the 40-week moving average as well. So something to keep an eye on. RSP has been now showing relative weakness, sitting right at the 100-day moving average. Qs, that's just positive. Subtle relative strength past couple days, and typically the best markets are when the QQQ leads. That's where most of the tech focus growth stocks that we trade tend to be in. And so if this can start to lead into a new rally, that'd be a very good sign versus, say like a IWM leading. So monitoring the recent relative strength, you got all these moving averages, holding this lows end of the base here, maybe setting up for a breakout from this tight little range. Mag 7 sitting right at the 200-day moving average, maybe a little minor RS coming in. Dow Jones Industrial Average relative weakness lately continues to be in a short-term downtrend. Mid caps as well, sitting right at the 100-day moving average. Russ 2000, relative weakness as of late as well with the RS line. See if this can build out here at the 100-day. ARC, is this a bear flag rising wedge, or is this going to be a failed move and breakout? We shall see. FFTY sitting right at the 50-day moving average. VIX, decent move off the highs from, over this 30 spot. Really want to see this get back below 20 and ideally back below 18, but we're just going to take it one day at a time. And again, that's the best markets for us, the low volatility uptrends. There was a headline today, and S&P 500 dropped 0.5% in a 5-minute candle, right? That's crazy compared to what we had been in for a while, and that was low, VIX in sub 18, ATR, the S&P 500, less than 1%. And then you see growth leaders outperform. We're in the total opposite right now, and just it's the new normal. The big moves intraday, S&P, it's like 2022 in terms of price action characteristics, and growth leaders are going to have huge range as well. The dollar still looks like it's potentially trying to bottom out. Gold setting up a potential downtrend line break here. GDX as well looks good, holding the 50-day moving average. Silver got a range here as well. See if it makes a move. Bitcoin, a little bit of minor RS, super tight inside day above the 21 EMA. Bonds breaking the 200-day moving average, TLT, then rates ticking back up as well. Let's get into the tale of the tape. So percent of stocks above the 5-day moving average, 25 and 33 for the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq, and that's good. If we're going to rally, would want this to be low, so there is room back up to get into middle ground to overbought. So this is kind of in the oversold area. We got the CPI this morning. It was you know came in line with expectations, so pretty muted reaction. Oracle also reported earnings last night. They were up about 8%. So maybe that's a good barometer for the OpenAI complex and what the sentiment is like across those names. So see if it can hold. Today's keys. S&P struggling at the 100-day along with that 67.70 level, but holding above the 150-day. Q struggling at that 613.5 pivot above the 200-day moving average, and the Russ 2000 struggling at the 50-day and the 100-day moving average. Kind of, consolidation day two, 9 days below the 8 EMA and 9 days below the 21 EMA. And again, best markets occur above the rising 21 EMA. So something to be cognizant of. Of course, leaders are going to break out before the index bottoms typically. So you don't always get that. But again, staying under the 21 EMA, the wind is not behind your back. Let's see. Sectors wise, oil, energy, semiconductors, Bitcoin, weakness, uranium, regional banks, home builders with rates ticking back up, biotech, and software. GROTECTION today added onto Circle, trimmed SPXS, the hedge, and then bought position in SOX L, 0.73 RVAB, estimated balance at risk, minus 2.57. TurboTaxion, offensive trim in Fastly, 0.53 RVAB. 1.87% estimated balance at risk. Bottom line, choppy action with the rebound in oil prices. Leaders show minor RS. All right, let's see. All right, start with GROTECTION. Took position in stocks out. See reclaiming here. See if we can move higher out of the setup. And then GROTECTION also added on to Circle, pulling back a little bit today. TurboTaxion, we trimmed Fastly. This was initiated on this episodic pivot, and then it's had a really nice move, getting extended multiple ATRs above the 50-day moving average, and looked like a good place to take the first trim. Really good action there. And then some of the other names kind of in this group. Akamai looks really good. DOCN, heck of a comeback here. 3 days up in a row on big volume. We got stopped out of this in TurboTaxion, unfortunately, when it broke the 21 here, but this is roared right back up. And then Net's another one that we tried in TurboTaxion, got stopped, stopped around here, but this one's came right back up. So these names are definitely showing some relative strength. Ones to keep an eye out for. Memory was one of the highlights of the day. Bit of a double bottom base here that it formed, held the 50-day, now 3 days up in a row. So again, short-term extended, a pullback would be ideal, but you don't know. This could maybe just shoot back up. But again, if gaps up tomorrow, you're looking at day four of this recent move. So so a little tougher to initiate there. Covered Fastly, PSX, making new highs today. Bloom Energy. This one's a very choppy name. And again, like I was mentioning, this is a high ATR, so this moves quite a lot every day. So hard to get positioned, but nevertheless, it's holding up really well. And it's in a great theme. And, if the market pressure at the market gets lifted, this, definitely a prime candidate to continue higher. Net, nice back above all key moving averages. Dell, post earnings continuation flag, rounding out nice. Akamai continues to look good. LNG flagging below these space high. MP super tight launchpad setup with 821, 100, 200-day all set up together. RS line coming back through. GV, nice reclaim of 800. Sienna, these optics names continue to be super strong, coming back up. PWR flagging at the highs. Kava flagging as well, back above the 21 EMA after this earnings gap. Teradyne did have some news. It had a bit of a strange drop here today, but this one's holding up well, owned in TurboTaction. Keys holding up, holding the 21 EMA. VRT after the S&P 500 inclusion looks continued higher. Howmet flagging at the 21 EMA. Marvell building after this earnings gap. Coherent, getting a little bit wide and loose, but still building higher lows. CCJ, nice base that this is forming as long as it can hold above 110. And then Circle, pulling back a little bit today. Turbo 12, excuse me. RCAT up 10% on the day. This one's got a huge base. Looked like it was really going to have a monster breakout last week. Came back in, but still holding up well. CENX breaking out of this consolidation looks great. AXTI, another leader in the optics, holding up phenomenally. LBRT, new breaking out of this tight little flag, another oil and gas name. AOI, just extreme relative strength after this earnings. I mean, look at these estimates moving forward and just continues to be a powerhouse. Obviously, short term, extended here, but definitely, absolutely want to watch. AMPX building after this earnings gap as well. So we have been seeing some decent action in some of the earnings gaps. Circle, AMPX, AAOI, and some other ones. So that's a good sign. Qnity still building, looks constructive here. Carmen coming back up the right side of the space. AEHR, another one out of the space, holding up at the highs inside day today. SOLS, potential downtrend line break, higher low off the 21 EMA. This one looks really good. Planet Labs, is this a wedge or a little base to break out of? We'll see. But holding the averages, and then Jazz sitting right at 21 EMA, undercut and reclaim of this base. Let's see. Yeah, so decent action in some of the leaders. It still continues to be memory, optics. Some of these other ones like AA had a really nice day in the mining metals, along with CENX. BTU is another one. This one's got a really nice kind of launch pad set up here, downtrend line setting up, break here. The group, with Fastly, some of those names, DOCN, Cloudflare, Akamai, all holding up good. Oracle. So when closed okay, up 9%, rejected the declining 50-day moving average, but gapped up on earnings. So see if this can hold, and it's a good barometer for the rest of the OpenAI complex. But again, overall, the market continues to be very choppy. It's very headline driven. There's a lot of macro geopolitical things going on. Oil's unprecedented volatility going on in oil right now. So again, there's a lot going on in the market. It's definitely not a time to be a hero, but what we're doing, we're monitoring our beta, keeping it in line with the rules. So if the market does continue higher, we have some beta. Again, this 200-day moving average is the line that you want to watch. And if leaders start to continue show low risk entries, we'll start to look to add more exposure there, engage on the feedback that we're getting. And if the market decides to break down, then we will get defensive. And again, that's really the bottom line. Having scenarios for anything to play out and being ready. So that is going to wrap it. As always, like to hear from you. My email is connor@revereasset.com, and you can always reach out to Dan or Don at revereasset.com. You can also reach out to me on Twitter at ConnorJBates_. And if you're ever interested in becoming a client, always please reach out. And that is going to wrap it for Wednesday, March 11th, 4:44 p.m. Eastern Time. Thank you guys for watching, and have an awesome night.